Hi friends. If you want to check out my current foundation routine and maybe find out some tips that can help yours, or maybe vamp it up or shake it up, however you want to see it, then please keep on watching. Hello my friends, my name is Alicia. If it's your first time here, thank you so much for clicking on my video. And if you are returning, well, thank you for visiting me again. Kinky Sweat stands for my kinky hair and sweat life. I'm a fitness professional who loves things, all movement and beauty. If you want to check out what I do in between the makeups, you can head over to my Instagram. If you're interested in that, more makeup, beauty, movement, all in one, maybe consider subscribing. Many of you had complimented that my foundation, my skin's been looking really good. So I wanted to hop on here and show you what I have been doing, sharing not only my different foundation products as well as my skincare. Maybe some of these products might pique your interest, or not even, maybe the techniques themselves will inspire you to try something new. So why don't we come in a little closer? That's enough. I'm going to tone down the exposure a little bit. So here are my skin conditions. Right now, I would consider myself normal to dry. Right now it is, well, not officially wintertime on the calendar here in New York, but it is very cold. 30 degrees is the high, more or less, during the day. And in combination with the heat, my skin tends to get somewhat dry. I don't have anything on my face now. I took off what I had on earlier. I wanted to go in with my current moisturizer that I use during the day. One being the Good Molecules silicone-free priming moisturizer. I applied this morning. I'll apply it on the demo here, but also wanted to show you the Oh So Simple water cream from Krave Beauty. This is a nice lightweight formula that does not leave a greasy film behind. It's very simple in formulation, but really effective in terms of providing that hydration and moisture. Another one that I mentioned in my November favorites is the Bioderma Sensibio Light Soothing Cream for sensitive skin. It doesn't have any fragrance. It's lightweight, even though very moisturizing, and I feel ideal for under makeup. I wanted to go in with the Good Molecules because unfortunately I did not have a demo of that in my favorites video. So it is a pump, and I usually do one. I think that's usually enough, but if anything, I do like a half pump more. And this is the texture. It's very creamy but still lightweight. And this is what I apply before my sunscreen. News flash: if you are new to my channel, I do not wear or use primer because usually when I apply makeup is in the morning for the day. That means we'll be out in the sun despite it being winter time. Sun's still out. Don't care what season it is, okay? You are still susceptible to sun damage. Now, the reason why I like the Good Molecules is that although moisturizing, it dries down very quickly, and I think it does have some sort of a blurring effect. No matter what you do, your pores are your pores, and sometimes they're just going to show no matter what. But I feel this formula is helpful just to provide some touch of blurring, and ideal for under sunscreen. If you're like myself and you like to layer a lot of skincare, depending on the sunscreen, that formula could have moisturizing benefits in there, but sometimes, all the time, what am I saying? I like to have that extra layer of moisture, especially when you're going out in the cold and wind. I feel it's just nice to have that reinforcement. So we wait for like a minute. I will usually wait a little more just to ensure the moisturizer is completely absorbed. Then I go in with my sunscreen. A lot of Japanese sunscreens, Korean sunscreens are just so cosmetically elegant that they are ideal to apply under makeup. Whereas a lot of our sunscreens here that are made in the US have filters that are just not superior in terms of performance and feel and texture. So that's why when people are like, oh my god, use sunscreen as a primer, well, when you use the right sunscreen, it could work out very well. And I think sometimes what comes to mind perhaps is like, you know, using copper tone under your foundation, and it is a total and utter nightmare. Get it? Greasy, not ideal for makeup application at all. But what I will show you is, well, first of all, I'll show you quite a few. I raved about the Eevee Daily UV Face Mousse. I got this from Selfridges. I ordered 2 more because I am addicted. It is a mousse texture that has all the skincare benefits you would find in a regular moisturizer, but this texture is just superb under makeup. I also love the Krave Beauty Beet Shield. This also dries down quickly. It leaves the skin nice and silky smooth. I wanted to apply on camera the Nivea Sun Super Water Gel SPF 50. This only has 3 pluses, so it's not optimal UVA protection. I much prefer 4, but this is an incredible formula. I got this from Midoriya, which is a Japanese store we have here in NYC that sells like import goods from Japan, food, stationery, cosmetics, and I believe this is a Japanese product. I've never seen a Nivea sunscreen before. I don't know if we have it in the States. My friend sent me one from Australia, so I feel like Nivea actually has a broad range of sun care. It's just not available here. And I love this cap for the pump, so nifty. So I pump a middle finger's worth first. I go in with layer number 1, and you see it's a very literally water-like gel texture. I applied it this morning and it feels so nice, especially when it all absorbs. For those who don't like alcohol, I think there might be some in here. I kind of smell it, and you know, a lot of times any of these water gel-like textures inevitably will include alcohol because it ensures a quicker drying time. And also, specifically in the sunscreen formula, the alcohol serves as a sun filter stabilizer just to make sure they don't break down as easily when applied on the skin. And also make sure when applying sunscreen that you don't over rub. So when you've applied the majority of the product on your skin, just lightly tap around, not necessarily continue to rub, and it will create a film over your skin and it will dry down to a really nice texture. I would go in with another middle finger's worth to apply on my face, neck, and ears. But since we're staying inside, you know, again, just for demo's sake, so you can get an idea of what my skincare routine is before my foundation application. And in terms of skincare, that's what I've been doing, friends. I make sure, again, sunscreen is really important if you're like me and have hyperpigmentation from spots that you should not have been touching. So having a sunscreen just makes sure that these do not appear darker. And if you are using a medication or a skincare product that is formulated to lighten these spots, then your sunscreen is going to make sure that they're going to continue to lighten and not get darker in sunlight. And I just love the Nivea. It dries down like to such a plush like texture that's not greasy or heavy on the skin whatsoever. I do not feel like I have sunscreen on. And I know it's hard since I'm sitting in front of my window, but I wanted to cut down the exposure just so you can see how there's not a lot of shine on my skin. Sometimes, depending on the sunscreen, I'll bring it up again, like copper tone, it might leave behind a very greasy feel and greasy look. And also, I think the standout observation you're probably making is the fact that my skin color doesn't look whitish. Yay! All right, what do we do for foundation? Well, I like to go in with the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter in number 5 Tan. This is one of these products that you see it and you try to understand the magic. You're like, what is the big deal? You apply it and then you see, yes, that flawless filter look on your skin, and you're like, okay, I understand. And I went over to the Charlotte Tilbury counter in Bloomies, and the representative was explaining that the role of this is not necessarily to change the shade of your foundation, is to influence its texture. Maybe it looks smoother, it lays down better. So that's what we will see in action. I like to start on the back of my hand, and some of my favorite foundations I've been using and rotating through the Shiseido Synchro Skin Self-Refreshing. This is in 360 Citrine. The Hourglass Vanish Seamless Liquid in the shade Honey. The Dose of Colors Meet Your Hue Foundation in Medium Tan 122. And of course, the Pop McGrath Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Foundation in the shade Medium 16. I think Pat's foundation is just beautiful when mixed with others. I know there are a lot of mixed reviews about her foundation. People say it's not enough coverage, or it's weird or blah, blah, blah. So I find if you still have a foundation and you're not crazy about it solo, maybe try mixing in with your other foundations like we're gonna do today. My all-time favorite combination is the Shiseido and the Pat. So I'll pump out a little bit of the Shiseido, like about that much. That's all we're doing. And then I'll go in with the Pat, like a drop of it, because the Pat's very liquidy. So that's what we're doing here with this combination. I'm gonna swirl it all together, and this is what we get. I find that in terms of the different shades, the different textures, it all just marries perfectly together. I did say before that I was using a sponge because I did not want to dismantle my sunscreen. But I went back to the Wayne Goss fan brush. This is in 24S, his synthetic fan brush. So this is what I've been doing, right? I take my concoction and I dot it on one side of my face first. And I don't necessarily swipe, I pat. I pat down the pat. And I find this works very well in ensuring that the foundation melts into my skin. I don't over manipulate it. I don't go crazy, again, brushing it, because if you are an avid sunscreen wearer like I am, and a little bit obsessed in terms of the efficacy of the product, you never want to over manipulate the application process, because again, you could leave behind spotty protection. But if you gently pat, I feel you'll be good to go in terms of making sure that your sunscreen does not break apart or become uneven in coverage. Now, the other way to go is, of course, to use a sponge. Unfortunately, though, with visiting my boyfriend and visiting Maddie, I feel sometimes it's tricky when you pack a sponge and then I have to bring along the soap that I use to wash the sponge. And washing your sponge, and I understand brushes can get dirty too, obviously, I feel the risk is higher for a sponge to harbor more bacteria than a brush would, simply because it's a sponge. And I would feel really terrible if I don't wash my sponge often enough out of just sheer laziness and end up getting breakouts from that. Whereas with the brush, I feel if I wash it, well, with synthetic, it could be a little rougher. If I say wash it once a week, I think I'll be good. And then after I'm done, I just rub the excess product on a towel like I'm doing here. I know off camera is so helpful. And that kind of helps just keep it clean-ish until the next deep wash. So this is what we're dealing with. I'm going to zoom you in a little closer, and just so you can see the texture of the skin. And this is what I've been doing. I've been really liking the combination of the foundation and the Hollywood Flawless Filter. I feel it dries down to like a demi-matte finish, because I do go in powder. And although you might still see the hyperpigmentation, this is what we will do with the concealer. I'm a huge believer of not relying on your foundation to cover up like super dark spots on your face. So what I go in now with next is the Shiseido Synchro Concealer in the shade 303 Medium. I'll take some on the back of my hand like so, and I'll warm it up with my fingertip a little bit just to kind of get some zhuzh. And then I'll just take that on the spots that need a little more coverage, and I just use my finger to make that happen. I find this is the best way for me. I know everyone has a different skin condition that they might need a brush, or they might just need another foundation that provides more coverage. And I didn't even go into like the different realms or situations. If you are on stage, if you are performing, if you are a singer, yeah, you might need a more heavy duty foundation that is formulated to last long and to withstand heat and sweat at a higher capacity than, let's say, the Synchro. Although the Synchro is formulated to, Synchro to your skin all day to adjust to its differing temperatures and situation. Scientifically, don't know if that is true, but it's just nice to believe, you know? So that's what I do, and I find that is perfect for me because you know what? I have hyperpigmentation. No one's perfect. I overall just want an even tone looking complexion. I don't want to look airbrushed and completely perfect in real life because that is weird. So I just do my best to not completely cover, but to blur and to diffuse. That's what we're looking to do. Under eyes. I found I've been using less and less and less and less, but I was watching the Scott Barnes video when he was doing the, I think her name is Natalia. She's like a WWE wrestler. He was explaining that usually when you're looking to target under eye dark circles, you use two concealers. You use a shade that is going to be for color correcting purposes, because if you go in with the shade that's light, because yes, we want to lighten up the under eye, it might just look gray because it's not actually color correcting that discoloration, the grayness under the eyes. So I'll go in with the Shiseido gel stick, not the liquid, because we'll go into the liquid in a minute. This is in 304, is closer to my skin color, but this is going to do a much better job in concealing my under eye darkness, more so than using a lighter color from the get-go. And I just go in right on the tip of the gel stick and I use my finger to pat it down because I feel when it comes to the under eyes, skin to skin contact will just yield the most skin-like finish, especially if you have very dry under eyes. Definitely helpful in terms of using a formula from the get-go that's a little more emollient, and that's why I really love this because I just love how it blends. Then I could go in with, I will actually go in with my Power Fabric from Giorgio Armani. I just don't have it nearby. I could also go in with the gel stick again, but in the color 302 is a little lighter. So that's what that looks like. So this is the shade that I use under the eyes. And what we can do, I'll go in with the liquid form, shade 301. I'll swipe that right on top of the gel stick, and then I will combine with my finger, do a little zhuzh, take the majority of the product and just place it right over the first shade. And now we have a brightened under eye with our color correcting. And this is how I've been applying my concealer. I haven't been pulling down the stripes like all the way down to my cheeks because I haven't been using a sponge. Usually if you use a sponge, you can get away with applying more product than you would usually because the sponge is going to take away some of that product. But if you're not using a sponge, I find that fingers, this is the next best thing when it comes to under eye concealer application. Foundation's on, concealer's on, what's next? It all depends on your routine. For instance, I could go in with a cream concealer or cream product to contour with, and using a cream product is going to yield a more natural result because creams, liquid types of formulas, textures do blend better into your skin than a powder does. Sometimes what people do is that they'll use a cream contour of some sort, they'll powder and set, and that will be their contour, and maybe they'll apply some blush. Yes, if you want a stronger makeup look, a more reinforced makeup application that lasts, you will go in with your cream product first and then go in with a powder product of a similar shade. So if you just wanted to kind of contour a little bit, I have the Shiseido stick. I know this is not sponsored by Shiseido. I just went crazy buying their products when they had their friends and family discount because I just love them so much. I have it in 401 tan, and I just draw here carefully under the cheekbones, and I just do a little some of that on the forehead. A little on the jawline here as well. Then we do one of two things. You could use a sponge if you have a sponge. Just looking here. Actually, I could use my Wayne Goss brush. This is in number 12 because it is pinched and I feel ideal for blending out contour. And I particularly love this formula because it's very lightweight in texture and just very easy to blend out. And I think the 401 Tan is an ideal shade for me in terms of what I want to achieve as a contoured look. I'm not performing, I'm not going on stage. So if that is your scenario, I would go in with something a little deeper just so that people can see you from stage and you won't disappear under the lights. But this shade I feel is great for every day. It's not too intense, it's just the right amount of shade. And for me, it's not too cool because the point of contouring is to create shading. So you would technically choose a cool tone because that's going to recede and just appear more sculpted. But since my undertone is not cool, what could end up happening is that the color will just look a little gray and dull on me. And another trick you could do also is keep your brush or sponge that you applied your foundation with on standby, and whatever over blending you might have done, just carefully sweep over the contour here. And look at that. Also, sometimes I'll go in with the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter in number 3. Where is it? Just on the very tops of the cheekbones. And again, I will go in on the back of my hand first. You could use a sponge, you could use a brush, but like everything we've already done, I just go in with my fingers and lightly tap on the very tops of my cheekbones. So that adds really nice brightness without appearing too shimmery. The Flawless Filter, when you use a lighter color than what your skin tone is for highlight, I feel just looks so beautifully luminous and radiant. It really does provide that lit from within glow effect. And again, it's such an easy formula to work with. So that's what we got there. So for powder, I've been using my Hourglass Translucent Veil. It's actually running pretty low. I'm like quite surprised that I might actually finish a loose powder. Taking my Hakuhodo G5521B brush, I like to take a little bit of loose powder and pat the excess in the palm of my hand, and with whatever's left, and make sure you just blend out whatever creasing that might have occurred. I just lightly pat right where I need the cream powder to set. Cream powder? Cream product. I don't want to go too nuts, and I don't want to cover what we applied or where we applied the lighter Hollywood Flawless Filter on the cheekbones, because what I like to do is go over that portion of my face with just another highlighter, because we're not here to play. And you see here, I'm patting around the center of my forehead, anywhere that tends to crease heavily, like the chin area. Maybe you would go in on around the mouth area, because I have a very intense smile. So to ensure those smile lines don't become prominent throughout the day, that's what we'll do. For the rest of my face, of course, the Pat McGrath Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Setting Powder. I use light medium 2. Yes, it's a lot of money for very little product, but I feel it is just one of the most beautifully formulated loose powders. And I also think not necessarily ideal for baking or for applying heavily. I like to take, where is it? It's not even here. But I'll just use this brush instead. This is the Hakuhodo Paddle Blush Brush from their Holiday 2019 set. I'll just take whatever's in the lid, and again, I'll just pat down in the hand, and carefully, I gotta be careful, I don't want to cover my Flawless Filter. Just kind of whisking it lightly, not heavily set. So technically, we are done. We can be done. If you don't want to apply anything else, some people just like to do the eyes, light eye look, lips, and not have blush or highlight on, create that very light, luminous effect with their cream products, with highlight or contour. What I like to do is go in with the bronzer first. So let's go in with the, remember her? The Fenty Beauty Island Ting Sun Stalker Bronzer. I'm gonna go with my Sonia G. Face Pro. And just lightly over the cream contour, I think the Sunstalker bronzer is probably one of the more ideal products to use in terms of layering over a cream product because it's not heavy at all. It's a very lightweight powder. It's not a traditional powder because when you pat your brush into the pan, there's no heavy kickback. So I feel, again, more ideal than maybe a heavier textured powder bronzer to layer over a contour or bronzing cream product. Then I'm happy to show this to you on camera, the Natasha Denona Duo Glow in Alba. I originally applied this with a squirreled hair brush. I wasn't crazy about the texture because I feel squirrel hair is a little too lightweight for this type of a formula. So I'll go back in with my Face Pro and just lightly go over just from cheekbone to cheek, right over the bronzer. And it's going to give you a little bit of luminosity, but a little bit of color at the same time. So I feel this is an ideal product if you don't like to apply blush or highlight separately. You just want to get it one and done. And to apply, what do we want to do? And for highlight, I have went back to my Givenchy, the shimmer powder in 02 Shimmery Gold. I forgot how much this is just. And especially over the Charlotte Tilbury. You gotta be kidding me. Going in with the Rephr tapered highlighter brush, take a little bit here and just right over the Hollywood Flawless filter. And of course you go in with as much as you like. Well, the bridge of the nose, and it keeps it, and just right above the brow area. And take the brush that you might have applied your loose powder with all over the face. You could take a little bit more. In that case, I'm taking just a little bit of the Hourglass loose again and quickly whip around all your complexion products, or I should say cheek products, to make sure they melt into each other, that there are no harsh lines between the products, that everything is just harmonious in appearance. I'm gonna fix these brows just to make sure they're, you know, in the party. To put a little something on my lips, I'm gonna take the Tom Ford Courchevel blush and highlight stick with the blush shade and just kind of put a little, you know, staining on the lip. I totally went overboard with the top lip because I'm just being so haphazard with it. Just correcting a little bit. And that is it, my friends. You could put on your eye makeup if you do maybe wings, if you just do some mascara. Maybe if you use a cream contour product, another trick to do is to use that same product and just carefully blend it in your crease, or maybe you take the Hollywood Flawless filter in that lighter shade and just pat it down on the lid to brighten it up a little bit, or maybe you just keep it as is. But this is what I've been doing with my foundation routine and my skincare. I've been really loving the results. I just love how it looks on camera, in person. In person, it still appears skin-like. And here's just a closer look of how everything looks together. I'm going to cut down the exposure a little bit. So you see here, even we applied the bronzer powder on top of the cream product and the highlight and everything in between, the skin looks pretty smooth still. And although you can see my hyperpigmentation still peek through, I feel to not obsess over it, just, you know, cover up enough so that it blurs and evens out the overall look of your complexion. Let me know what your favorite foundation products have been, what your favorite techniques have been. I would love for us to exchange down below because I'm sure there is a lot of products, tools, and techniques that I still have to yet find out about. I just wanted to share my current routine with you guys because you've been really loving it, how my skin has been looking in my recent videos, and I wanted to give you that update. So with that said, friends, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I'll see you on here again with another tutorial, how to review favorites list or get ready with me. Take care and I'll see you again soon.